Hey guys, it's Braden, and today we're going to look at the foundation of your dental practice. At Dental Intel, our goal is to help you increase production and patient care. A lot of practices think there's only one way to increase production. Go out and get a bunch of new patients. But that's definitely not the only way. What we need to realize is exactly where production comes from so that we know exactly where we need to go to increase it. We're going to dive into what drives production in a dental practice and how you can begin increasing your production today. We're going to talk about a formula here, but don't let that word scare you. It's a super easy formula. It really just boils down to two variables. So here's what we call the production formula. Visits times production per visit equals total production. If I have 10 visits and I produce $100 per visit, my production is $1,000. As I increase my visits or increase my production per visit, it'll increase total production. That's it. Those are the only two variables that influence production: visits and how much we're producing per visit. The entire performance board, every single metric here, is based off of this simple formula. You may not know how many visits you have or how much your production per visit is. You may not even know your total production. That's okay. That's why we have Dental Intel. Dental Intel's performance board will help us first figure out where we are right now. How many visits are we having? How much are we currently producing per visit? And how much is our total production? And then second, identify how can we improve. Now that we know where we are, what can we do to increase our visits and increase our production per visit so that we can increase our total production? Now that we know what makes up production, let's go find the areas we can improve in. When you first log into Dental Intel, you'll be on the performance board. You're going to see a bunch of numbers and graphs, but don't let all this data overwhelm you. We're just going to take it one step at a time and only look at 4 numbers right now. At the top of the performance board, you'll see the black ticker board scrolling from side to side. If you hover over the arrows, you can get it to move faster. The 4 numbers we're going to look at are all right here. They are active patients, pre-appointment percentage, future visits, and production per visit. These are the 4 most important numbers you can start looking at. And the best part is you can start improving these numbers today. Let's talk about the first part of our formula, visits. Since all of our visits come from patients, the first thing we want to figure out is exactly how many patients you already have. Scroll on the ticker board until you see active patients. Active patients measures the number of patients that have had a completed appointment in the last 18 months and are marked active in your practice management software. This practice has just over 3,700 active patients. Do you know how many patients you have? Go take a look at your own active patient base on your own dashboard. Then ask yourself, how many of these patients do you think have an appointment to come back and see you? The answer might surprise you. If you look just to the right of active patients, you'll see the second metric we're going to look at, pre-appointment percentage. This is the percent of those active patients that are scheduled for a future appointment of any kind. This practice has 53% of their active patients scheduled to come see them again. But that also means that 47% of their active patients are never scheduled to come back ever again. This is over 1,700 patients that are never scheduled to come back into the office. Think about how much opportunity that is. Again, go check out your own pre-appointment percentage on your board and see where you're at. The top dental practices have between 75 to 80% pre-appointment percentage. Let's figure out what you need to do to increase your pre-appointment percentage so that you can be a top performing practice. The first step to increase your pre-appointment percentage is to stop letting patients leave the office without a future appointment. Begin reappointing every single patient before they walk out. Now, most practices think that they're already doing this, but if you look at the data, they're really not. You can go to the performance board and see how you're doing at reappointing your patients. The numbers on the performance board reflect whatever time period you're looking at. Let's go ahead and look at this month. You can scroll down until you see hygiene reappointment percentage. This is the percent of hygiene patients that are being reappointed for their next hygiene visit before they leave the office. If you ever forget what a metric means, you can click on the menu and go to what is this? The top dental offices consistently reappoint 90% of their hygiene patients. How do they do this? Well, when a patient comes in for a hygiene visit, they make sure to schedule their next hygiene visit before they walk out. Even if the patient doesn't know what their exact schedule is going to be 6 months from now, work with them to get them on the schedule for an appointment. The chances that you'll see this patient again go way up. If the patient is absolutely firm about not wanting to reschedule until they're actually due, you can create a follow-up on their account, so you get a reminder in Dental Intel to call them when they're due. Check out our video on follow-ups to see how to do this. You can also turn on Dental Intel's automatic follow-ups to make sure and capture any patients that do slip through the cracks. Again, you can check out the follow-up video to see how to do it. Click on the menu and then you can pull up the source data. This will give you a list of all of the patients that were seen for hygiene, and then you can quickly identify which ones did not get rescheduled. Give these patients a call and get them scheduled. As you begin right now to reappoint all of your hygiene patients, you'll prevent your pre-appointment percentage from going down. Okay, so let's quickly recap what we've been over so far. First, we figured out how many active patients you have. Then, we saw how many of those patients are scheduled to come back and see you for a future appointment. You want to get to the point where 75% of your patients are scheduled for a future visit. We found out that the first thing you need to do to get there is to stop the bleeding. Stop letting patients leave the office without a future appointment. Reappoint everyone that comes in. Then, after you've stopped the bleeding and you're reappointing all your patients, now you can move on to getting back the patients that aren't scheduled at all. In order to increase your pre-appointment percentage, you need to go and find patients that aren't scheduled and get them scheduled to come back in for a visit. Right here on the recare metric, you can see the number of unscheduled active patients you have. These are the patients that have slipped by. The recare pie chart shows a list of all these patients. The sections are broken up by when the patient's last visit was. Click on a slice of pie and bring up the names of the patients. Again, these patients are never scheduled to ever come back and see you. Click on the patient's name and you can bring up their profile. Give the patients a call and work on getting them scheduled. Use the follow-ups that are attached to them to keep track of all the calls that you're making and get reminders to call the patients that you need to. Again, you can check out the follow-up video to see how to do this. As you get these patients scheduled to come back and see you, you'll slowly begin to see your pre-appointment percentage go up. The third number we're going to look at is future visits. As you start to reschedule all of your patients before they leave the office, and then as you use the recare pie chart to recover the patients that fell through the cracks, the number of future visits you have will go up. As we saw in our formula, the number of visits you have directly impacts how much production you have in your practice. Periodically review your future visits to make sure that you're trending up. Most practices aren't quite 100% full and have room to increase visits. If that's the case, you absolutely want to increase your visits. But some practices are already at 100% capacity. They are always full. Well, that moves us to the second part of our equation, production per visit. If we're at capacity, the only other way to increase our production, as we saw in our formula, is to increase production per visit. So that's the fourth and final number that we're going to look at. If you head back to the ticker board, you can check out production per visit. This will tell you your average production per visit for all providers for the past 90 days. Now that you know where to find production per visit, you can work on increasing it. There are a bunch of ways to increase production per visit. Doing more same-day treatment, hygiene add-ons, increasing fees, giving more options of treatment to patients, etc. But the most important way to increase your production per visit is improving your case acceptance. One of the biggest struggles that dental offices have in trying to increase their case acceptance is forgetting to follow up with patients who didn't schedule their treatment. Ideally, whenever a patient is presented with treatment, you get it all scheduled, or at least a part of it, before they leave the office. But for those scenarios where the patient needs to talk to their spouse or check their schedule before they schedule their treatment, it's important that you don't forget to call them in a couple days, check up on them, and get their treatment scheduled. Again, this is where Dental Intel's follow-ups come into play. You can set up automatic follow-ups as reminders to call and check up with patients to get their treatment scheduled. Our follow-up video explains exactly where to go to get these set up. In the Morning Huddle feature, you can take a look at each provider's schedule for the day and see what patients are coming in. Then you can see the amount of unscheduled treatment each patient has. Review this every morning as a team to all get on the same page so that everyone knows what patients are coming in, and then work together to get their unscheduled treatment either completed while they're still in the office or at least scheduled for the future. Check out this practice who used Dental Intel to work on increasing their case acceptance. If you look at their active patients for the last 3 years, you can see that they stayed right about the same. If you look at their production per visit for the last 3 years, you can see that when they started using Dental Intel to follow up with their patients and schedule treatment, their production per visit exploded. This led to their June production increasing from $56,000 last year to over $120,000 this year. They didn't need to go out and get a whole new patient base. They just needed to focus on doing a better job at following up with patients about treatment. We're absolutely sure that as you use Dental Intel's follow-up system to keep tabs on patients' unscheduled treatment, you can see the same results in your practice. So let's quickly summarize everything that we've gone over today. The production formula helps us see that the only way to increase our production is to either increase visits or increase production per visit. Now you know where to go to find out how many active patients you have, and then you can see what % of them are scheduled for a future appointment. As you begin reappointing every patient before they leave the office, And then as you use the ReCare pie chart to schedule the ones that slip through the cracks, your pre-appointment percentage will go up. As you start doing this, the amount of future visits that you have will increase, which will help increase your production and make sure that your schedule's full. And then finally, we discovered that the most important way to start increasing your production per visit is to make sure that you're using Dental Intel's automatic follow-ups to check up with patients that have unscheduled treatment. All 4 of these metrics that we looked at tie directly back into the production formula. Check out your own dashboard, see where you're at, and get to work to start improving today. As a team, use Dental Intel's morning huddle to review how the previous day went. You can review production per visit and case acceptance for your providers. Check to see how hygiene reappointment went. Find out how many patients you recaptured. See which patients didn't get rescheduled. And make sure that the number of unscheduled active patients is going down. You can also look at what patients are coming in today and how much unscheduled treatment they have, so you can work on getting that treatment completed. Watching these numbers and working to improve them will help you become a top-performing dental practice. The production formula is so important. Memorize it, stick it on your desk, write it on your forehead, whatever you need to do to remember it. As you work as an entire dental team to work on increasing your visits and improving your production per visit, your practice's production will go through the roof. Everyone plays a role in creating a healthy practice. Dental Intel's here to help make your role easier. As always, if you need any help, contact us. We love seeing your practice grow.